What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Higurashi, When They Cry, GOU. This is episode 3, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
So this episode it pretty much plays out the same way as it did in one of the original episodes from the first season. It picks up sometime immediately after the last episode where they go into the last moments of the festival, and then what was it? Keiichi and Rena are doing this this cotton ritual in which they try to pay tribute to
Oyashiro.
Oyashiro. And then the next day, Keiichi talks to this guy. Apparently he's a detective named Oishi. Yeah, and then he learns from him that about all these mysterious murders or disappearances that happened in the past 4 years, supposedly caused by the curse of Oyashiro. And then he does mention two of the people that Keiichi. One of the people that Keiichi has met. It was
Jiro
Tomitake, and then there was another woman that appeared very late in the last episode named Mio Takano. So he mentions that supposedly they both ended up disappearing shortly after the festival, saying that Tomitake's bike is just sitting out by the tree, and then Takano's car is still parked in the same place where she left it the night before.
I should also mention the reason that Oishi decides to talk to Keiichi is because Keiichi isn't originally from Hinamizawa and therefore doesn't really buy into their superstitions. So because apparently everybody in the village pretty much believes in Oyashiro-sama's curse.
Yeah, and then shortly afterwards, of course, he becomes Oishi's informant, pretty much gives him his phone number and then just wants him to give him a call if anything suspicious happens, at all. So pretty much the rest of the episode just plays out almost like normal. Pretty much 2 days pass by the entire episode, which Keiichi's life, somewhat goes normally like it does as any other day. However, there's a couple things that happen. He one night he starts to get a little bit paranoid and then just stays up late looking into the magazine articles or news articles that he looked up earlier. And I think what was it? Mion mentioned something about what was that term that she mentioned?
Well, so in the original they called it spirited away by the demon. Actually, Oishi mentions something about this when he's talking about other instances, apparently, in which people were spirited away by the demon. One of the Shinto priests got sick and died, and then, somebody else was killed because of the curse, supposedly.
Yeah.
And, it's basically... But in this, they said... at least in my translation, they say demoned away, which sounds weird. I don't know if that's a translation error, if that's actually what they're saying or calling it. But yeah, apparently, somebody, it hasn't happened yet or something. So they're thinking, Mion mentions that she thinks that Tomitake, I think, was spirited away by the demon. And Keiichi overhears this because he's pretending to sleep because of him being tired from staying up late. So he overhears the conversation between Mion and Rena about this, and that's how he finds out about that.
Yeah.
And I think the scene after that, wasn't it Oishi
pretty much talks to him about everything that happened, including you mentioned that priest dying, and then apparently his wife ended up drowning herself shortly afterwards, and I think the following day, I think Keiichi and Rena are
before this too, I should also mention the place they decide to talk at. I don't know if this is a difference, and I will mention things I think that could be differences, even if they're small differences, at least from what I remember from the original show. I think they introduced the place they meet up at is called Angel Mort, and Angel Mort is basically like I guess you could describe it as like the Japanese version of like it's kind of like a maid cafe or something, because they all have these like kind of slightly skimpy outfits, and they kind of look like, I guess they're supposed to be like a maid like attire.
It's pretty unusual for a maid cafe to be in the middle of, in rural Japan.
Yeah, I found that strange, but yeah. So I think in the original series we don't see Angel Mort until they introduce a character known as Shion, which we haven't been introduced to yet, which is Mion's sister. But I could be wrong about that. But yeah, so they meet up at Angel Mort, and yeah, like I said, I think that might be a difference. Could be wrong about it. But,
yeah, it's a weird difference for them to just do that, but it just seems out of place. Like I said, for a maid cafe to be in the middle of rural Japan. I mean, yeah, but anyway, so I think wasn't the next scene in which?
Yeah, I think the next scene is like is the kind of an infamous scene from the original anime, actually, like where Keiichi and Rena are walking together. And I say it's infamous because it's really where we get the first example of what became basically the Higurashi face, which is where the character basically has a really weird distorted facial expression in the original Studio Dean version. And I think it's just due to Studio Dean's weird animation, like where the character's facial features look all distorted and messed up. And I'm pretty sure that was probably intentional though. But like they basically, here's where they kind of try to attempt that. But yeah, like it's a conversation between Keiichi and Rena where Keiichi decides to finally confront Rena about like her like lying to him about things. And like, he's like, I know you're lying about this. And Rena basically counters with like, I know you're also lying about like stuff that you were doing. Like, she brings up him talking to Oishi, and him reading that magazine where he found out about like the construction workers who murdered that guy. And this is basically where Rena just pretty much snaps and like just goes crazy, like starts shouting at him and like getting in his face. And this is kind of where we see like, I guess, this studio's version of like the characters sort of having this insane expression on their face, where like we've kind of seen teases of it before with Rena where she would just have blank looks on her face. But here it's like they show her having the crazy eyes and just like staring right into Keiichi. And I do like how it looked. I'm not sure which I prefer, because I know like that was one of the things I did kind of like about Dean's version, is that like whenever the characters did sort of just snap and go crazy, they had that weird like facial expression. Yeah. And honestly, it seems like they're trying to emulate that here.
I think this version, what was it? This version's like adaptation is slightly better than the Dean version's over exaggerated expressions, because
I would, yeah, like from an art style standpoint, it just, animation wise, it's pretty much night and day in my opinion, like from what we've seen so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because I was wondering how they were going to handle that one particular scene in which Rena was confronting Keiichi about her and him hiding things from each other. But yeah, I think it was a decent way for them to adapt this version of this episode.
Yeah, I liked it, but I'm trying to decide which one I think I liked better. I am definitely more leaning towards this one, just because like it just looks better. Like it's just I think they definitely tried to make it look as creepy as possible, and I would say it did look pretty creepy. So I would say like, yeah, this was a pretty decent attempt at it. But yeah, after this is where like it's pretty much after this point where things start to get really crazy, where like Rena just starts to really expose herself as being just completely like at least where Keiichi learns that Rena might not be sane, or might be kind of unhinged.
Yeah.
Because later on, like we see Keiichi just at his house, and he gets a call from Oishi, where Oishi tells him about like Rena's history and like how she at her previous school, like she apparently is a native to Hinamizawa, and Keiichi thought that she had recently moved there, but apparently she was originally from Hinamizawa. And she was suspended from a school she was attending because she had broken all the windows, and then she moved back to Hinamizawa, I guess, after that.
And then they mentioned that like she was diagnosed with a mental illness at one point. Yeah. I forgot what was called, but it's a form of mental illness that she was diagnosed with, and then she shortly came back to Hinamizawa shortly afterwards, and then shortly afterwards, like we never really saw Keiichi's dad a lot in the original have where we
I honestly don't even remember if we even saw his dad in the original.
Because what happened was like he ends the call with Oishi when his dad just comes in, like, well, pretty much carrying around some snacks and tea, telling him about like with Rena being at the house, pretty much telling Keiichi that like I think Rena is waiting upstairs in his room or something like that, downstairs and something like that. Okay, and then Keiichi suspects that Rena has been eavesdropping on his phone call conversation with Oishi. So and then of course like we see Rena just like slowly creeping up to where he is, and then like just pretty much peeking through the door, like with her almost like sadistic expression of sorts.
Yeah, I remember this from the original anime where I think him and Rena like have a conversation, and I think if I remember correctly, like after this, like Rena is like standing outside his window or something, like looking up at him, or and then it's pretty shortly, not too long after this too, where the scene we see at the very beginning ends up happening. So yeah, I'm very interested to see how this is going to play out. Well, actually, no, I also do remember there is also that scene where like Rena is like staring at him through the crack in the door, and I think that's probably stuff like that's probably what we're going to see in the next episode. Because I remember the original series, like she gives him some kind of like candy or something, and it has like these like sharp needles in it or something like that, like when he touches it, and she's like staring at him through a crack in the door. So I'm interested. I'm definitely, like, we did already kind of see that in the trailer, so definitely looking forward to seeing that. So I feel like in the next episode it's definitely going to ramp up with the horror stuff. So I'm definitely interested to see how the studio is going to handle all that.
This is an all right episode, but it's almost like just like episode 1 is almost like sort of a shot-for-shot remake from one of the earlier episodes from the
I did say this was my favorite, but I'm trying to debate whether if like it's this one or the second one, because the second one just genuinely shocked me with all the stuff that was different, and I didn't even know like that it was actually a sequel until everybody was basically saying like this is just a sequel.
Well, I feel like some, like in the next few episodes there might be some similarities that might end up happening, but keep in mind Keiichi, like in the last episode, all of a sudden gets this this vision of him like bludgeoning his friends to death.
That's going to be like the most interesting aspect of it, is like I'm wondering if like he's actually going to still go through with it, because maybe he knows like what's going to happen.
I mean, like we did see him. We did see that scene of him like bludgeoning Ren to death in the opening episode. So it's possible that we might still see that scene, but there's a chance that I think there'll be a point in the show where it will deviate in a significant way.
Yeah. You could also keep in mind that that might not mean that this is going to happen in this scenario too, because it could have happened in another world, like another what they call fragments in both Higurashi and Umaneku, where fragments are basically like alternate worlds where different things happen. So that could be that situation.
Yeah, and then let's not forget, Rika also has a part to play in the show too, because she and Hanyu, I guess, apparently know what's going to happen. Well, from now to going forward, assuming if things play out the same way as it did before, or maybe it won't. I'm not sure.
I think. Well, I did talk about this before the recording too. Speaking of Umaneku, but I didn't realize this when we did the recording of the last episode review. But there apparently are there have been two like references to Umaneku in this anime so far with the opening. They show like. They briefly show a character from Umaneku called Featherine, which is one of the witches from Umaneku. But even if you've seen the Umaneku anime, you probably won't know who she is because she doesn't appear until like the Answer arc. And we also briefly see the Yoshiromiya mansion from Umaneku. So I really don't know if they're planning to actually do anything with there being some kind of like a crossover or something with Umaneku, or if that's just kind of like an Easter egg of some sort. So I have to wonder what exactly if they're even planning to do anything with that. But I didn't even know. Apparently, I also found out that of course the original creator Ryukishi 7, he's actually involved in the production of this anime. So I feel like there probably will be something. There probably might be some significance to that, considering he is involved. So, I don't know, but I really don't know what it could be. I feel like it might not be like anything significant. It might just be maybe some Easter eggs, or maybe like a character from Umaneku will show up. I did speculate in the comments of the last review that it's possible that one thing I think that could be possible, because somebody mentioned how it could be like a prequel. And technically, like, because in the timeline, Higurashi does take place like 3 years before Umaneku, so they could do something that's sort of like a prequel to it. And the only thing that comes to mind for me would be one of the witches from Umaneku known as Burn Castell. Burn Castell is basically an alternate or a version of Rika, where Rika never escaped from the time loop she was stuck in, and she later became the witch Burn Castell, who is like kind of an evil witch. So I would be interested to see if maybe they go into that. I guess they could possibly go into that. Maybe like how she became Burn Castell or something. But but overall, yeah, this was a like. I would say this was a decent throwback episode. If anything, this it plays out similarly to like I think one of the earlier episodes back from the Studio Dean version. So there wasn't anything too different about it, with some minor changes, which I do have like a couple gripes about, like that a freaking maid cafe, in the middle of rural Japan. I mean, it didn't really bother me or anything. I just was like,
much. It just felt like a weird placement of sorts.
Yeah, I guess they maybe just threw that in there for, I guess for like sort of an Easter egg or something, or just because. But yeah, like I was actually a little bit surprised at how closely this episode stuck to the original series. Like after what we saw in like the second episode, I started to expect there to be like a lot more changes, but like I also speculated before, that might not happen until a little bit later. So maybe this arc will mostly stick close to how it was in the original anime, maybe with some slight changes here and there, but it maybe with the later arcs we might start seeing bigger differences.
Yeah, and I'm also noticing like the title of the episodes. It's like it's called, Demon's Deception? That's what it's called. So, and I think if like Studio Dean's version of the first arc was called Spirited Away by the Demon, So it's almost like a similar tile of some sort. So if I were to guess, the next few episodes is gonna play out similarly to like where I think what happened to that original one. I think I think Keiichi like kills his friends, and then like the next day the timeline resets the next day, possibly, but with some changes that happen along the way.
I remember now how the original how the first arc ended originally too. So I wonder if it'll end the same way here.
I'm guessing that might be.
I'll just say the phone booth, like where he goes to the phone booth. Yeah, and then he's not there anymore.
I have a feeling that this is gonna that this arc is gonna play out similarly to the original, but like I said before, I really do feel like that something is gonna happen that's gonna deviate the remainder of the story in a much different direction than what the Studio Dean version did. Considering that we did get a hint of that back in episode 2 last week.
Yeah, and I kind of I know like not everybody was satisfied with the Studio Dean adaptation, at least those who've read the visual novel, because they say the tone is pretty different from the visual novel, and there's obviously a lot that was cut. So maybe we'll also get something where it tries to be a little bit more faithful. I mean, since this is also Ryukishi is actually involved in the production of the anime, then maybe he'll actually try to have it stick a lot closer to how the visual novel is. But I guess we'll have to see. I still need to reread read the visual novel anyway, so I can't really I mean, until I do that, I really can't say how closely it's really sticking to the source material. I mean, and also considering this is supposedly a sequel, I expect it to deviate a lot in that regard too. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this episode. It was much more similar to what we saw with the first episode, where it sticks pretty close to the original, and there's maybe one or two differences here and there. But I don't know if you have anything else to really say about it.
I mean, I'm still liking where the direction of the story, sort of know where the direction of the story is going. But yeah, I think we'll pretty much expect something similar to play out as we did in the Dean version. But yeah, I'm expecting some changes to happen later on in the show.
Yeah. But yeah, that all being said, I guess until next Thursday, we will see you all later.